All right, and welcome back to another session of Awareness. I'm your host, Taylor Martin, and I'm here with Raquel Moore. We had just got done talking a little bit about fear, and I think that there's a stem of other emotions that sometimes can trigger that. One of them really being anxiety. I know that a lot of people on this planet have anxiety on a very regular basis. And to me, it seems like anxiety has a tendency to really put you either in the past or in the future. It does everything but keep you out of the present. So let's just talk a little bit more about anxiety, what anxiety is, where it comes from, and how these tools can help.
Well, that used to be a big question of mine, so I asked a lot about that because I had a really good friend that used to have uncontrollable panic attacks, and I do mean on the floor, paralyzed, just terrified of everything. And when I had asked about that to try to help that person, I was told that panic attacks and anxieties were caused by psychotic entities, which they're kind of this weird kind of mustardy color when you look at them at a spiritual level. And they'll put you into a level of hysteria or panic. Again, they're under the one-dimensional entities, and they can make you look really like guys will say, oh, she must be, having an attack or something like that, or it must be that time of the month or something like that. And it's a very zippy frequency when you look at it, hysteria. And it is a female energy. So when you see it in a man, and that's the person that I knew that had the panic attacks, it was a female entity that had gotten in his body. So, and from what I saw when I finally figured it out, and I did, I looked and I tried to, because I really wanted to help the person because they would become absolutely paralyzed and they'd want to put them on all the different medications that are out there, but they couldn't stop it. And it was this being that would come into his body, and he couldn't function anymore at all. He was just a screaming lunatic. And I helped him get rid of that, and then he wasn't a screaming lunatic, but it would get lit or stimulated every time his father was around because he had had a lot of sexual abuse done to him, and his father was we'll say spiritual person. I'm not going to go into a specific religion, but so that's what allowed that to get into him. So I had to get rid of the core picture, which was him being molested by his father, and then get rid of the being that came in with the hysteria. So with the tools, technically you could diffuse a lot of that energy or the entity that came in by getting rid of, we'll say, the original child abuse picture that what I see had occurred to him at about 5. And when I knew him, he was probably in his mid-20s.
Sure. I think that's a really good example of a very extreme case, and I think there's a lot of those type of things that are out there. And I also, I on a day-to-day basis, I'll see various friends, coworkers, other people around me that have anxiety over certain situations or events, maybe as an actor before they go into an audition, maybe as a public speaker before they stand up in front of a crowd. There's just kind of this anxiety that kind of takes over them, whether you call it nerves or whatever you call it. There seems to be something else that's in control that's really not allowing you to be you within that moment.
Yeah, because I know a lot of actors will also, like theater actors, they'll throw up before a performance because they have such bad anxiety. And usually, technically, like in spiritual mechanics, what's happening, why they're throwing up, is that energy is coming out so something else can come in. And that's what causes the anxiety. Actually, it's a we'll say, channeling or entity problem, no matter how it gets in.
Right.
But you can start to handle that, diffuse that, or we'll say take control over that so it doesn't take control over you. However, because people will bring in different beings or entities to help them cope with, we'll say, if they're afraid. They've learned as children, if they bring in something that's a big bad motherfucker to protect them as children. But that causes this staticky, shaking fear thing. And eventually that being will completely take them over, and it will give them negative karma. So that thing that you may have originally brought in to protect yourself from, we'll say, the molester or the abuser, will eventually ruin your life further on down the line. So it's important to, we'll say, start to reverse that process or that programming of you need this other thing to help you to deal with whatever, whether it's an anger being or a hysteria being or a crazy being, or these are all one-dimensional things, and people will bring these in because they don't know how to deal with it at the time. And these things, whether they're called your imaginary friends, because again, I've dealt with kids that go through this stuff, and the imaginary being will come in, and they're not imaginary, and make a deal with you. It's called let's make a deal. I'll protect you. I'll make you strong. I'll make you smart. I'll make you allowed to deal with this situation.
For payments or money or
Right.
whatever. And I think that a lot of people, when they're making deals, they don't, most of them I don't believe are actually aware or conscious
Oh no, not at all.
that they're
They're in a
these deals.
desperate situation.
Right. But what's interesting is that in the most desperate situations, or when we're at our weakest,
Oh, that's
is a
when
lot
they
of
come in.
times when they have
Opportunists.
the highest percentage of
Yeah.
winning. So,
Well, they're very opportunistic entities.
Right.
So,
in day-to-day life,
Mhm.
as I'm a human being on this planet, and I start to experience feelings of anxiety. Maybe it's a big meeting, maybe it's a job interview that I'm going to, and I really start to feel this. The tools that spiritual mechanics teach us, how do they play into allowing me not letting anxiety dictate my present and my future?
well, you just simply use the tools to diffuse the energy that's not allowing you to control it. Basically, the philosophy with energy is if you can't control it, it's not yours. It's very simple. Whether you're crying hysterically, you're angry, you're fearful, if you can't control the energy, it is not yours. So all you can do is release it and diffuse it, which the tools help you to do. And again, I've done this for 30 years. I've watched this work every single time with every student and myself. So you diffuse it, you get rid of it, and then it doesn't, it doesn't control you anymore.
It doesn't run you.
It doesn't run you.
Right.
Because if you can't control it, it's not your energy to begin with. So all you do is diffuse it and get rid of it.
Right. It's a great point. And it's time for you to be in control of your space, in control of the present, and in control of the future. Let's get in the driver's seat. And thank you again for joining us for another session of Awareness. We'll see you soon.